our webinar today. We still have several people logging in, so we will get started in just a few minutes. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining our webinar today with Raven Tools, Uncorking Content Creativity. We still have several people logging in, so we're going to get started in just a few moments. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining today. You have joined the Text Broker webinar, Uncorking Content Creativity, Topic Generation with Raven Tools. Today we have on the line with us Ariane Holland, who is the Director of Communications for Raven, and she's going to be presenting our webinar today. While we still have a few more people logging in, I'd like to just go over a couple of housekeeping items. The first thing is that all attendees are on mute. We do that so that we can eliminate background noise. So if you have any questions, please submit them via the question button on the right-hand side of your screen. You can also use the chat function, and we will make sure to get to all questions. We will be answering questions at the end of the webinar. So if you have questions during the webinar, please go ahead and write them in the question function on the right-hand side of your screen, and we will make sure to get to those. The second item is that we are recording this webinar, and we will be sending out a link to the recording after the webinar is over. That will take us a few days to get out, and you'll be receiving a link in your email. So thanks again for joining. Just to recap, we are recording this session, and everyone is on mute. So if you have questions, please submit them via the question function in the GoToWebinar on the right-hand side of your screen. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our speaker today. Today we have Ariane Holland, and she's going to cover Uncorking Content Creativity, Topic Generation with Raven Tools. Ariane, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Great.
Are you ready for me to get started?
Yep. Go right ahead whenever you're ready.
All right. Well, thank you for the introduction. I am Raven's Communications Director. I've been with the company for about 3 years. What's kind of interesting, I'll tell you very briefly about Raven, is that we developed our software because we were an internet marketing agency that had needs for, at that time, SEO. And over the past few years, we have evolved into a more complete platform for SEOs, social media marketers, content marketers, PPC folks. And I think the cool part is that you can use all of Raven and all of its tools to get content ideas if you are a copywriter, which is primarily what I do. And because it's primarily what I do, I definitely understand what every copywriter's worst fear is. Basically, it's that you're not going to have an idea someday, and that happens. It happens a lot. Raven does have a solution, and as I mentioned, Raven has multiple solutions actually. Because we have so many tools and we integrate so much data, there are lots of places that you can go to generate ideas or get ideas. The reason I'm putting this screen up right now is because Raven is going to have an entirely new look in about, well, I can't promise exactly when. I can only say early August. But if you'd like to know more about it, go to raventools.com/simple. What I do want you to know in advance is that one significant improvement in this area, which you will see on this screen cast that's playing, is how the tools are going to be organized into sections like research, SEO, social, content, PPC, and reports. What's interesting is that nothing we look at today is going to be in the content section. So keep that in mind, that you can use the entire Raven platform to get your ideas. The only tool, in fact, that we will look at in the content section is the text broker integration, so you have that to look forward to. So with Raven, you can research anything. We have some very simple consolidated research tools that will help you get great ideas very fast. With Raven, you can also use our powerful monitor tools. What I like about this is that the ideas come directly to you. If you set things up in advance and you just let Raven run in the background, you can get things basically handed to you on a silver platter. You don't have to scour, you know, the web looking for things like sources or real problems that people are having. You can even narrow down to the types of results that you want. And then Raven is also very useful for content teams, copywriters, because you can assign anything. And we'll get more into depth about this later, but if you're working on a team, and chances are if you are a copywriter using Raven, then you're part of a larger online marketing team. You have some other folks who are using other tools. You can assign tasks to other people, but you can also assign them to yourself. That way you'll never forget something that you come up with. But let's dive right in. The first thing that we're going to focus on is using Raven's research tools to get content ideas. There are two that I'm going to focus on primarily in the research section. That's mostly because we have this great tool called Research Central. It is a one-stop shop. It consolidates multiple data sources, Google AdWords, WordStream, WordTracker, Majestic SEO, Moz. It puts all that data into one place. You put in something into one box, and you can get ideas from all of those sources, which is pretty fantastic. There's also an interesting but not often used data source in Research Central called Calais, and you will learn today how to basically copy and paste an article, mine it for ideas without even having to read it. Site Auditor is where we're going to start, though. The reason that we start with Site Auditor is because I think that when it comes to content that needs fixing or content ideas, if your own website isn't working properly, then you definitely are not you know, who's going to see the content that you're producing. So Raven introduced a tool a couple of months ago called Site Auditor that, for the most part, it's used for technical SEO. It will go out, crawl a website, any website, not just yours, for issues that affect usability in particular. How I like to use it for content ideas is to find the titles and the meta descriptions that need to be fixed. Why do I call that a content idea? Well, that's because it's an opportunity to sell. For example, the website that we're working with today, let me just go back and I will show you this. The website we're working with today is called youreasygarden.com. I have nothing to do with this website. No involvement. I just used it for inspiration. I don't know if you're into gardening. I seem to be a lot lately since I bought a house last year. So I apologize in advance if you're really bored by gardening, and also if you're involved with this particular website and you like or don't like something I say, just feel free to let me know later. let's go back to meta descriptions. Without getting into the details of how it works, when you go and look at the meta tab and you sort things by, there's a column that's hidden behind here, but if you sort something by problems, essentially, meta descriptions that are too long, well, you need to fix that. But as long as you're fixing that, you may as well write to sell, because if you're not going to click on that result in Google, who else will? In this particular example, and honestly, this website has done a pretty great job with their meta descriptions. We have kind of a boring, readers will find some labor-saving tips. Readers are also encouraged. That's very passive, very boring. In just a few minutes, I came up with something that I'm not certain if it's accurate for this article, but it certainly is a lot more engaging and possibly more likely to get my content clicked on or shared for those who are searching for it and find it online. The other thing Auditor is great for is uncovering link problems. Now, there's an entire school of thought about how you can create new, better content, offer it up to webmasters or website editors to replace their broken link with your better content. SEOs use this all the time. I like to use broken links to get content ideas in general. Again, it's just a source. What is it that someone at this website thought was interesting enough to send a link to? In this case, 2 links that are broken that could inspire me in terms of my gardening website: whimsical gardening gifts, tips for carefree landscapes. Those are pretty broad as topics, but it's enough to spark a content idea. So, 2 simple, fast ways to use the site auditor to get content ideas. I don't want to spend tons of time on that because the place where you will probably live if you're looking for content ideas is Research Central. As I mentioned before, it automatically pulls in website and keyword data from several sources, and it does it. All you have to do is type in either a web page, website, any keyword or phrase into this box, and you hit research. And then I call it getting lost into the rabbit hole. In fact, the first search that I submitted was easy gardening. Makes sense, right? Because that's what my website is about. After I click that research button, the first page you arrive on is a summary page. I'm showing this to you just because you should skip it if you're just looking for content ideas. Instead, head straight to this AdWords tab. Now, this AdWords tab provides data from Google AdWords. It pulls in the top 100 words that Google AdWords thinks are related to the one that you searched. So again, our original search was easy gardening. You can see by search volume how popular those searches are, as well as how much advertisers like to pay to be seen next to those keywords. And towards the top of the list, you really get ideas that are very similar to, I mean, you know, garden is not going to give you a new idea for easy gardening. But as you scroll down, and if you focus in particular on words that are people are searching the most, but not necessarily there's a lot of advertisement for, that's an opportunity. And the opportunity we're going to look at now is something called raised garden beds, which could be a great way to accomplish some easy gardening. So literally click on raised garden beds or your result, and automatically Research Central replaces the easy gardening search and performs another AdWords search on it. So this is what I mean when I say that there's a Research Central rabbit hole. You just keep clicking and clicking and clicking. As you do that, you will see some repetition. Expect that to happen. But the farther that you scroll, the more variety and ideas that you will get. The deeper that you click into something, remember it starts a new search every time. The more ideas that you're going to get. So if I was to click on herb garden, for example, that's going to send me off in an entirely new direction to get content ideas. Now, if you find things that you want to save, and by the way, I think that I did click on herb garden, which led me to kitchen garden, which led me to some phrases that really have me inspired now, because I'm thinking that if there are people who are interested in herb garden kits or in raised garden kits, that sounds like easy gardening to me. I'm going to go find out what the best ones are, the worst ones are, see if I can get someone to review it. Those are all great content ideas. Also related to this, small gardening. You know, you think about easy gardening as being something for large scale, you know, you've got this great landscape and you want it to be simple, but maybe if you just reduce the size, it would be a whole lot easier. So I want to save that idea. Perhaps out heirloom vegetables. These are, or flowers, these are the fruits and vegetables, plants that you won't find at your typical grocery store, and it could be a very small, simple garden that you have of things that nobody else will. So I want to save these ideas. Very simple. In Raven, if you click on those keywords, you head over to the drop-down menu for bulk actions. In almost every tool, there is a bulk action option anytime you see a checkbox. If I add it to the manager and click apply, Raven will automatically save these words into our tool called the Keyword Manager. Raven happens to automatically add the tag campaign, but you can change those or alter those tags later for your own purposes. Then, when I'm finished with AdWords, I do the exact same thing, but I do it with the word tracker and WordStream tools. Why? Because they have they're different data sources and they pull in different ideas. WordStream actually is interesting. So for the exact same term, easy gardening, I turned up, for some reason, arbors, as well as easy garden layout. So boom, there's two ideas. I don't really think about an arbor being something that's simple or easy to do in a garden, but maybe I'm missing something. Maybe there are some kits out there. Maybe there are some new low maintenance arbors that I should explore with content. I have a content idea. And then I noticed that actually these three in a row all say easy gardener, and they're very specific. Sunscreen fabric, fencing, poly hardware cloth. Maybe that's a brand. In fact, I'm pretty sure that is a brand. And it sounds like, based on the volume of searches that WordStream is returning, these are products that perhaps my readers would be interested in knowing more about. So again, I've just given myself an entirely new way of finding ideas just by clicking on these other tabs. Well, that's what happens if you're looking for a keyword, easy gardening. Let's say I come across an article online somewhere, and just from the headline, it inspires me. Maybe it's a news article, maybe it's a competitor article. It doesn't really matter. As long as I have a URL, even if I don't have time to read it, I can use Raven's Research Central to mine it for keywords and ideas, which I think is awesome, because I love to read and I do not have time to read. So here's what you do. This article right here happens to have this crazy URL, which I just cut and I pasted into Research Central, and I clicked research. When you paste a web page or domain, you will notice that a different set of tabs comes up. Quality, keywords, pages, backlinks. This is because when Research Central is looking at a web page, it's doing it a little differently than it is for a keyword. But if you click on the tab for semantic, what it does is it pulls in, it basically takes that copy, runs it through a system called Calais or Open Calais, and then that system tries to figure out what the relationships of the words are on the page. It's not really a perfect tool. In fact, there's a lot of people who get here and they think, what in the world is this for? How is this useful? Well, in this case, I've got some words. These words apparently are in this article, but so are these words. Now remember, I didn't read this. I didn't have time to read this. But because Calais is analyzing the real phrases that were written by real people, instantly I can think of ideas. Let's see, cool weather crops. Okay, well, give me reasons why it's easier to garden when it's cold. Earth-friendly biodegradable pots. Okay, well, are they inexpensive? I bet there's an article I can write about that. Let's see, excellent health benefits in an article about gardening. What are the essential plants that you need for good health? Good quality soil. Now, this is a bit of a stretch. I don't know that it's actually true, but I'm curious, is it possible that there's good soil that could be bad for your garden? I'm pretty much a skeptic about everything. So with that one tool, Calais, that one URL, click on semantic, get power from Calais, all of a sudden I have 4 ideas. And that took literally about 2 minutes to happen. Now, the keyword and tag managers are important just to know about if you're mining Raven for content ideas, especially these research tools, because when you're in the middle of that rabbit hole and you find some words that trigger something, maybe you don't know what it is yet, but you're pretty sure you're going to use it at some point, go ahead and check the box, add it to the keyword manager. They will inspire you later. It also helps you know what you've already researched. If you noticed back in some of our earlier slides, you saw the word campaign perhaps tagged on results. That meant that I've already looked at that keyword. I've already analyzed it, mined it for content ideas. I don't have to spend time on that again. Plus, you can add tags that will be useful to you elsewhere in Raven. So let's say that I've come up with a whole bunch of keywords that I think would be great for some social monitoring. I can add those tags right when I add words to the keyword manager. And it sets me up for later, which also sets me up for the next section of getting content ideas in Raven, and that's monitoring. So, you know, if you think about the last section, the research section, you could stop there. Anytime you're short on an idea, you could pop into Research Central, throw in a URL, type in a keyword phrase, long or short, doesn't matter, 15 minutes, a client a week, and you would come up with a long list of ideas if you were a little creative about the phrases that came up. But what about sources? What are real people saying that you could use as an impetus for new content? Well, that's where social monitoring comes in. Specifically, we're going to talk about 3 tools in Raven. I also want to mention that Raven allows you to add your Facebook accounts, but because for this gardening website, I did not have a Facebook page to add, so I wasn't able to do that, but that can be part of this as well. So Twitter, we're going to use advanced searches. We're going to use the social monitor to track specific phrases that we established earlier in our research process, and then we're going to consolidate everything in the social stream. So Raven's Twitter tool, it does what Twitter does. That's the easiest way to explain it. The way that it's most useful, I find, for content ideas is in the Twitter tool. If you head down to this searches section, that's where your advanced searches live. Advanced search, if you haven't used it on twitter.com or in Raven or any other tool, it is truly an excellent way to find trending ideas as well as what I call real people sources, people that you can reach out to and say, hey, I'm writing about such and such. Do you mind if I use that photo that you shared in my article? I find that a lot of people, what I call real people, if you're not creepy in your approach, really are flattered that someone noticed something, especially photography, that they shared. Everyone wants them to, you know, everyone wants their photos seen. That's why Instagram's so popular, right? So you can set up your advanced searches directly from Raven, or you can do it from twitter.com. I don't know why, when I was doing some testing recently, I found that it was a little bit easier if I just did it in Twitter and accessed it in Raven. So if I click on searches when I'm in the Twitter tool in Raven, I have a list of the searches that I saved from twitter.com because it pulls those in. Couple of interesting things too, if sentiment matters to you, smiley faces or question marks, if you're looking to answer people's questions with your content, it would be very smart to set up an advanced Twitter search and check the box that says, yes, there needs to be a question mark in the result when you return it to me. And then what you do is you click on a search. So I believe that I found this search just through garden minus Madison, because that returns a lot of results for Madison garden, and minus olive, because that returns a lot of results. I come across this tweet from this guy who, as it turns out, Raven tells me, is actually living in Scotland. And apparently he's irritated that it's after midnight and someone is having a party in their backyard. That actually gave me an idea, because when you have a garden and you've built it specifically for entertaining, how do you soundproof it? How do you create a garden space where you can entertain and still have, you know, peace with your neighbors, is the bottom line. Other ideas that came from just plain advanced Twitter searches. This one I liked in particular. Someone just posted a thought. This was a thought. My grandmother has a mini and I'm in love. I don't know what a mini secret garden is, but boy, I want pictures of one, and I want to write about it, and I want to share it with my readers of Easy Gardening. And, you know, a couple other ideas depending on what kind of results turn up. In my opinion, this is the easiest possible thing you can do to get content ideas in Raven. Set up the advanced search, go look at them, see what a real person says, save the idea. But sometimes you want to get a little bit more specific, a little bit more in depth. Perhaps there's particular brand phrases or keywords that you want to monitor on an ongoing basis, or from a particular social network, and Twitter is not that network. Well, Raven's social monitor can automatically pull in data from basically the leading social monitoring service, which is called DataSift. And DataSift will return results from social networks, forums, news websites, blogs, blog comments, all sorts of things. I looked at the source list, and I think at recent count it was more than 20. You also can specify what type of result that you want. So if you want to narrow it down to, tell me when someone checks in and they use this word when they check into a place, on Foursquare, I would assume, then that is the word that, those are the results that you're going to get. Now you see in the background how my social monitor has this nice list of search terms. That's because I'm kind of anal and I like to plan ahead of time. You will recall that back when we were doing our content research, there were several keywords that I had tagged and added to the keyword manager, but I tagged them with the word social monitoring. Well, then I went back to the keyword manager. I found those things that I had tagged social monitoring, and I made a list. I made a plain text list, and I set it up with all the Boolean search terms that I would use in order to get the most results. Small things matter, like if I want to pull in low maintenance plants, it makes a difference whether or not there's a hyphen or not. It also makes a difference whether or not there are quote marks. So low maintenance plants, it's only going to look for that exact phrase with the hyphen. However, for easy gardens, it will look for any result that just contains both of those words somewhere in the result. It also, when I number them, it helps me know what my social monitor limits are. This data is very, very powerful. And by powerful, I mean expensive. If you were going to try to set up social monitoring via DataSift or another system, it's going to cost you a lot more than a Raven Pro account, which is $99 a month. And for that $100 a month, you can have 20 social monitor searches. Extras are $250 a piece. So it just helps me keep an eye on the budget. I think that for an extra $2.50, if there's a term that I really want to just have running in the background so I can always get content ideas, that's worth it to me. But that's something that you'll have to decide. So, as I mentioned, it keeps your list neat and tidy. Maybe I'm the only person who cares. Now, when you look at a search, so one of my searches was easy gardening, and let's say that I click on this link right here in my social monitor. It takes me to the results. Now, I just set this up very recently, a couple of days ago, so I don't have all that many results yet. But I can look at just the monitor search for easy gardening and just the mentions that it finds there. Raven allows you to change the sentiment. The system automatically adds sentiment, but it might not be right. And so you can change that. Those types of features are more useful for your social media managers or social media marketers. But if you're just mining for content ideas, chances are you're not going to need to go look at each individual search. That just takes a lot of time, especially if you have 20 of them. That's where Raven's tool called the social stream comes in. The social stream basically is all your stuff. Your Twitter accounts that you've added, your Facebook pages or individual profiles, as well as your social monitor terms, you can combine them into one single view. We call those quick views. Now, by default, Raven can pull in all services. That's everything that you've synced on this particular Raven profile for our website, youreasygarden.com. All Twitter. If we had Facebook, I believe it would say all Facebook, and all monitor searches. Those are default. But mixing and matching might produce some better results. So if I go back and I click on New Quick View in my social stream, I want to create some custom views, things that are narrow to, for example, give me all garden ideas, but don't include anything from Twitter. Give me container garden ideas. Give me ideas related to plants, because that was one of the keywords that I set up. I do that with the new quick view. And depending, again, on the sources that you have synced with Raven, you can go in, you can check that okay, I want all mentions of me, because as long as I'm monitoring, I may as well see who's talking to me. You'll notice that if you have lists of particular people who constantly inspire you for new content ideas, set up a list. Raven will pull that in. Then you can check the list and add that to your quick view. But for our purposes today, I'm going to add these saved searches, and I'm going to call it Twitter mentions and searches. You can call it anything you want to. If I was to click on the monitor tab, it will pull up the title of every search that I have set up. And so if I wanted to set up a social monitor search just for ideas on what to put in planter boxes or window boxes, I can do that. I can pick just those 4 and be done with it. Now, there's no charge for quick views. There's no limit on how many you can have. So you'll find that over time there are some groups that work really well for how to for finding results, and that at some point you might need to go back and alter, pick and choose which quick view options get you what you're looking for faster. Then this is automated, right? It just happens. It happens in the background. So I don't have time on a daily basis. I used to. I don't have time anymore to live on Twitter. I don't have time to go look for all of these searches on a daily basis. That's not what I do every day. But what I can do is set aside a little bit of time every week, maybe a little more, a little less, to review those quick views for my ideas. So, for example, these are some of the results for garden tips. And I popped in. I wanted to see the result for garden tips in my social stream, which I did. And let's see, Mary posted, and she must have posted this publicly. That's how we're picking up the result from Facebook. So remember, guys, if you don't want someone to know what you have to say, don't post it publicly on Facebook, because monitors like this will pick it up. Mary's got a problem. Apparently she has some dahlias that are being eaten up by earwigs. She's tried everything. How can she get rid of them? Boom, that's a content idea for me. But how am I going to remember that? Because, you know, again, if I'm only doing this once a week and I only have a limited amount of time, I need a fast way to keep track. So that's where assignment of content ideas comes in, and Raven's tools for managing tasks and content contacts are super helpful. Most people use them on Teams. I actually kind of use them as mini reminders for things that I want to write about. So the task manager lives sort of separately, and even in the redesigned Raven, it will live separately from the list of tools. It'll be a menu icon. I'm not sure if it's this exact one, but something similar to this. You go to tasks, it pulls up your tasks. Looks like there are 8 that are assigned to me. I assigned them all to myself when I was getting ready for this presentation. The nice thing about the task manager is if you add due dates or someone else adds due dates, you can program Raven and change your settings to send you an email alert or other alert to let you know that, oh, that idea that you wanted to write about or that source that you needed to contact, that's coming up. You need to pay attention to that, all within Raven. So when should you create a task? Always. From any tool in Raven, because this lives outside of individual tools, you can always click and add new task. Sometimes it's easy. From the social stream, which is in the background here, I don't know if you can see it, there's a little gear icon. So when Mary was complaining about those earwigs, and I thought, okay, I'm going to write about 5 easy tips that actually work for getting rid of them. I clicked on this gear icon and it gave me the option to add a task. When I do that, it automatically copies and pastes the social monitoring result, the full text of that result, as well as, you can't see it on this screen, as well as a link. So I can find it for future reference. All I had to do, literally all I had to do to add this task was to type a title. For my purposes, I start everything with content idea so that I remember what it is that this task is about. Task Manager doesn't have tags the same way that some of the other Raven tools do. That's it. I just create the task. Now, I've created the task and I've got Mary. I'm not going to reach out to Mary, but there might be someone else that turns out to be a really good source to contact. And that's where another one of those independent from the rest of Raven tools comes in, and that's Raven's Contact Relationship Manager. It is very tightly woven with Twitter and some of Raven's other tools so that you can add a contact or notes about that contact or find contacts for certain websites directly from other tools, and it will automatically report them over to the contact relationship manager, or CRM for short. I call it the easy Twitter to CRM to tasks integration, because that's what my workflow would be. I would find the mention, find the person that I wanted to save information about, and then add a task that reminds me to contact them. So that's what this process looks like. This is an actual result from either I think it was an advanced Twitter search that pulled in this result. And all I noticed, because Raven, there's a drop-down button, and when I click that button on an individual result, I get the details on who is doing this tweeting. I get to see their biography and where they're located. What intrigued me? Photos and more photos. Egocentric company. So this is someone I want to follow up with. I'm not certain how I'm going to use her yet, but she sounds like she's going to make a good source for my gardening blog article about something someday. So now that I know that, I click on the tab for contact. Just a moment ago, we were looking at the tab for profile, but now I click on contact. Oh, well, she's not in our system, not surprising. So I click create contact. Now, automatically, again, within this same window, Raven adds Nell Foster's information, all the information it has, which is that this is her Twitter handle, to Raven's CRM. And then, conveniently, I can click on View in CRM. When I do that, here's Nell. Here's the information that I have about her. Now, Raven was able to extract her website from her bio on Twitter. I've got her Twitter handle, and I went ahead and marked her as soon as I went in CRM as a potential source, someone to contact. I also added a note just to myself about the Twitter mention, because I'm not storing that actual mention this time. I'm not adding a task for that mention. I'm adding a contact for this person. So I just wanted to refresh my memory what she's all about. And then there she is in the CRM. Now, here's the last step. So from the CRM, there I was in this, no, sorry, we got to walk all the way through this again. So from the CRM, you will recall that those icons for the CRM and the task manager they kind of live up here outside of the rest of the Raven tools, but also directly from this particular contact, I can create add task. I click this button. Boom, there it is. This form looks a little familiar. I'm going to change my title a little bit. I'm calling her a potential source. I'm reminding myself that she has a lot of great photos we might be able to use, but this time I'm not the person who wants to reach out to her for one reason or another. There's someone on my team. I just came across it. I think they should follow up, so I can assign it to another team member. By other team members, I mean these are people who are authorized to use your Raven account. So in this case, I'm going to assign this to my boss, because why not? So I gave it to John Henshaw. So that's how, in a few steps, from either Twitter, Social Monitor, or Social Stream, you can look at details, you can add them to the CRM, and you can give yourself a task. This is so useful for uncovering sources that aren't from the regular echo chamber. As writers, we often find that we are tapping the same people over and over for information, when the truth is, if we just could broaden our horizon, or let the software broaden our horizon, we would find sources that could give us fresh ideas and fresh perspectives. And it's very useful for that. Now, let's say that you have all these great ideas, but you don't want to write it. That's where TextBroker comes in. Remember I mentioned that we would only talk about one tool that actually lived in Raven's content section? This is the tool, and it is TextBroker. Basically, TextBroker has people who can write on just about any topic you might want. I looked at the list. There were 40 or so last night. Everything they write is original, verified that it is completely original, not plagiarized. And if you're interested in more information, specific information about TextBroker and how it works, if you do a search on Raven's website or go to our blog and you look at our partner spotlight, we have some great step-by-step instructions. But I will show you briefly how to place an order within Raven for TextBroker content. Very simple. So back here, I click Order Article. I already know what I want to write about, and this actually is something that we did order at Raven. We did not end up publishing it, but it seemed like it would be a fun thing to try. I guess we're going to come back to that example in a minute, because last night I must have thought this would be funnier. Some of you may have recalled that one of my content ideas was what kind of poop basically is good for the garden, and that was inspired from someone complaining about an animal that was always going to the bathroom in their garden. I'm curious because I'm a gardener and I have a dog, and I know that manure is good for soil. I want someone else to find out what kind is good for me and to write about it. I'm going to pay TextBroker to do that. I add an article description. I add target keywords if I'm interested for SEO. And I put in my word count, minimum, maximum. And the cool part is that you get an estimated order total. So I know in advance about how much this is going to cost. In this case, $25 for 300 to 500 words. If you go a little more narrow than that, for example, in this case, this is the St. Patrick's Day example, 250 to 300, I have an estimated order total of $15. That order actually came in when it was returned to us at $14. So it was not quite the words count that I asked for. That's okay, because I'm going to go through and write through this copy that they returned to me, double check it, make sure that it's okay to go and that I approve it, and that I'm happy with everything before I agree to pay that amount. That is a flat fee that's added to your Raven invoice. So and it's in addition to your monthly cost, and that's why we ask that you check this box. And also, in order to use TextBroker, the very first time that you set it up in Raven, you just have to submit approval. It prevents credit card fraud. That's ordering the article. That's what the article looks like when it comes back. And that is a very fast rundown of what, 6 tools that you can use that aren't even content tools necessarily, that you can use in Raven to get content ideas. I'm guessing that there are probably at least, no, I'm not guessing, I know that there are 4 other tools that I really wanted to talk about and did not have time. Things I encourage you to check out include Raven's Chrome toolbar. This is an add-on, so it's very helpful if you're looking for content that you want to hang on to, or you've got a content idea as you're browsing. The toolbar comes in handy. The link manager comes in handy for that. And there's a tool called Site Finder that helps you do some of that keyword research or mine individual websites to get ideas based on the keywords that that website performs well for in search engines. So otherwise, that's what I have for today. Does anyone have any questions? If so, I believe that you were able to ask them already, and that someone will let me know if you have them.
This is Jennifer.
If you don't, that's okay too, because as you'll note, Raven has one-on-one training 3 times a week, as well as what I like to call office hours. twice a week. This is a time when our webinars are just open and our session is open, and you can come in, ask anything you want to. Truly, anything you want to.
Arian.
Our trial
Arian,
manager,
this is
Jonathan
Jennifer.
will answer.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Arian?
I can hear you now, yes.
Okay, it sounds like we have a little bit of an echo, so hopefully it's not too bad for everybody on the call. But I do have a whole bunch of questions here, so I'll just go ahead and start asking. Could you touch on how Google views press releases as spam, or do you know anything about that?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that one for me?
Can you please touch on how Google now views press release as spam?
Yes, actually. I was reading the Search Engine Land had a great article yesterday that talked about that. You may have noticed that one of the services that Raven just integrated was PR Newswire. That's because a couple of reasons. SEOs do use press releases or have traditionally used press releases as a way to promote content. But we integrated PR Newswire so that it gave you another way to distribute your message. Raven is not just a platform for search engine optimization. It is a platform for online marketing. And one of the ways that you can market online is via press releases. Why? Because they go to a press release website that gets distributed to news outlets. News outlets can pick them up. News outlets can write about you. So that's why that exists. As far as the ins and outs of what Google said, the best resource that I've read, and I just read it yesterday, it was on Search Engine Land, and it broke it down. I think the bottom line is, to be on the extreme safe side, make sure that you tag every link in a press release, no follow. Another question?
Okay. Thanks, Erin. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Can you show us how to set up an RSS monitor feed for, let's say, Yelp for a business?
That is an excellent question. I can show you where in the time that we have. So let me put this on mute so there's no echo, and I will see if I can make that happen. So what you're going to do, I guess I'm thanking you already for showing up. What you're going to do is go to your Raven account, which was supposed to be signed in already for me. Let me see if it still is. And when you go to social and you go to the social, let's see, I believe it's the social stream. Could be wrong about this. I am wrong about this. It's the social monitor. So you go to the social monitor, and when you create a new search, in addition to adding the search terms and all the sources that you have and the types of results, there's even advanced things you can narrow. This is interesting. So if you follow this guy and you always want to know when he's mentioned or when he wrote something, you can narrow your social searches to that. But you're asking about custom RSS. So what you do, you take the RSS feed URL, you plug it into this field. That's basically for Yelp, I imagine you would use RSS. And then you hit save. And all of a sudden you've got your custom RSS feed saved as a social monitor search. Just that simple.
Okay, great. Next question is, how do you know which content is much better for the website from a user point of view and to deliver more traffic on the website?
Oh, that gets into a lot of strategy. So if I understand the question, or if I distill the question correctly, you're wanting to know how do you find content ideas that people will read that will also perform well in search engines? And my answer to that question is, if you write content that people will read, and I believe this before I came to work at Raven, and I used to argue with John Henshaw, the co-founder, who's strict SEO background, and I said, you may be able to do things with keywords and linking, but if no one will read it, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. How is that going to help your business? Now, there are some quick and dirty ways, black hat ways that can help your business. I have thoroughly enjoyed watching this industry evolve. I'm a former journalist. I did that for 12 years in various capacities, a graphic designer as well as an editor and occasional reporter. I have really enjoyed watching online marketing and SEO in particular come not full circle, but really change their point of view about content. Google started it. They said good content matters. SEOs tried to figure out what good content meant. And at the same time, with the rise of social media, all of a sudden what made good content became very clear. It's things that people like to read and share. And when all of those things combined, basically, if you come up with something that you would read, I've heard someone say, if my mother would read this article, even if she didn't care about the subject or know anything, then I know I've hit on something good. Those are some good methods. We also integrate, and I'll give you a good resource to go to for more advice on that, in our content tools. And our content manager is probably going to be empty because yeah, there's nothing in this website. But you'll notice that there's Scribe. We integrate Scribe by Copyblogger, so we're partners with Copyblogger. And they have created a new kind of premier advice section for content marketing that I strongly recommend. I spend a lot of time in the forums and reading what people have there. So if you're familiar with Brian Clark and Copyblogger, go check out Authority is what it's called, and you can get to it from mycopyblogger.com.
Okay, thanks, Ariane. We actually have a lot more questions, but we're not we've come to the end of our question. So we will make sure that Ariane gets those questions and that we get back to you from the text broker side, because I see that there's a lot of questions about text broker, about how to get quality content, what the star ratings mean, and so forth. So we will make sure that we respond back to you on an individual level. Ariane, I would like to thank you very much for a great webinar, and thanks everyone on the call for joining. Bye-bye.
I appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.